Hi, I'm Kayla Cobb. I'm going to be your host for this week's TheWrap Roundtable. This week, we're going to focus on the collaboration between the WGA and SAG-AFTRA. I'm joined by a wonderful group of panelists. Joining us today are Shari Belafonte, who is a SAG-AFTRA member. She is also part of the negotiation committee and is a national board member, as well as a member of the LA board, local board there. I'm also joined by Sasha Stewart, who is a WGA East council member, as well as a writer and producer. I'm also joined by Alyson Stover, who is a SAG-AFTRA member, and BK Phillips, who is a SAG-AFTRA member, and Max Goldbaum, who is a SAG-AFTRA member. Max is also a candidate for national board member, as well as local New York president in the upcoming SAG election. Thank you all for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much.
My first question is for you, Sasha. I believe that you have been we're on day 85 of the WGA strike, correct?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
What did you say? This is day 85? Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah.
I feel it.
Yeah.
I feel
it. How have you seen the picket lines change now that SAG has joined you?
Sure, it's been great. It's been a wonderful, wonderful addition, and I want to say that SAG has been with us since day one. Every single picket that we have has had a SAG table. There have been SAG staff members. SAG actors coming out to support, and so we felt the love from SAG and the support from SAG, and so that's been great. And I also think that having SAG on the lines before SAG went on strike was actually a great rehearsal for the actors. Actors love rehearsing, so it made a lot of sense. And now that SAG is officially on strike, I mean the lines are huge. Our picket lines are enormous now, and we love having more actors who like to project on Bullhorn. That's been really great, and so I would say it's injected a lot of energy. We've been sort of calling this phase 2 of the strike. It really feels like the energy levels are back to the beginning, which has been a wonderful addition. Even though we wish that SAG had just gotten a fair contract. That would have been the best thing that could have happened.
Now that the WGA and SAG are both on strike, has that created any sort of conflict with scheduling different pickets? I know in New York, this whole week it's been kind of a theme week for WGA. There's Sports Solidarity Day, there's the Animation Writers Day, and then today there's also the Times Square Rock the City for a Fair Wage. So can you speak about scheduling those things a little bit? Let's start with you, Shari.
I was going to say, I personally don't know of any of the themes that we've been doing. All I know is that we get a list of where to go, what time, because it's very, very hot out here. I think most of ours started about 8 in the morning and go until noon. Sometimes it'll go till 2 p.m. But I can't address whether or not we have themes. I'm always wearing either my SAG strike T-shirt or my, work with the WGA T-shirt. We're all out there doing the best that we can, carrying signs. I know that there's thousands and thousands. When I showed up, the first day we showed up, I worked with the WGA's line a couple of weeks back before we went on strike. We were at Universal. I know that certain places will very restrict you. You can only have 20 feet that you can walk. Some of them will let us go around the corner. Warner Brothers seems to be a very long line. It seems to have just taken the entire the block and around the corner. And at that point, I drove in, but we had a bus of people that came in from SAG-AFTRA. And that particular day, we went to Netflix, we went to Paramount, we went to, Netflix, I think it was, Paramount, Warner Brothers, and Disney. And Disney, gave us, I think it was a driveway. But as far as I know, everybody I know is just grabbing their T-shirts and going out and, when they can. Right now, the last few days, I've been doing interviews and talking to other people and plan to go out again tomorrow. So maybe Sasha can tell more of what's going in the theme stream in terms of people walking.
Yeah, so we've actually been coordinating our pickets with SAG just to make sure that, one of us has to get the permit. So it's, we kind of been trading off, this is a SAG picket officially because they are the ones who got the permit, but we are showing up in solidarity or vice versa. And so the staffs of both unions have been working really closely together to make sure that we have all the permits we need, that we're showing up the locations that we need to show up to. And yeah, so I think in the West, it's super easy because, not easy actually, but sort of easy to coordinate because everybody's going to the same lots they've been going to for the entire time. In the East, because we have fewer Writers Guild has fewer members, we had to be very strategic about which locations we would show up to. So we were happy when SAG was able to, we're not happy that SAG's on strike. We're happy that SAG is standing up for their rights. And it made it easier to have 4 locations going at once because there's enough people to actually show up to all 4 at once. Now that last week, we had sort of our SAG Solidarity Week where we just kind of told our members to go to all of the SAG pickets, whichever one you want. Now that we have kind of done that, we decided this week to do more themes. We'll keep doing themes. Usually we try to do about 2 or 3 themes a week to keep members engaged and also just to show what a diverse, wonderful, awesome membership that we have. It's really nice to be able to highlight all the different aspects of our membership. And we're really excited for SAG if they want to do themes too. Like, we're down. We would love to do joint theme days with them. And we always encourage SAG to come out when we're doing a theme. We're doing this big animation picket later today, and I'm sure there will be a lot of voice actors coming and supporting, which I think will be really, really great. And so, yeah, I would say it's been really awesome being able to coordinate these themes together or these pickets together. And no, definitely there's no competition at all. For us, because we're so much of a smaller union, it's mostly just about like focusing where can we get our membership on a given day and trying not to split them up too much all the time because, having us split between 4 locations every single day makes it feel like there's not that many people on the line, even though for us, it's a big number. But by comparison to SAG, it's a smaller number. So we're trying to sort of find the balance between having pickets just like, oh, yeah, just go to any of the SAG pickets today versus like, this is a special theme day. Come to this specific location and hang out with us.
Yeah, I know you guys are doing Philly Day today up at Fox, so I'll be there later.
That's great.
Oh, wait, what is Philly Day?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go to that one. I'm a big Eagles fan.
Yeah,
will they have pretzels?
I don't know. Yeah, I think they're gonna have pretzels. You guys have your act together so well, and I know that I know there was a meeting last night that my friend went to for strike captains, and I think there were over 200 people there, and she said something that there might be, getting more up to speed with SAG themes. So, but I don't know what you guys have, like a Queen genre on Thursday, and I'm like, oh, what am I supposed to wear? I'm like, it's so hot out here. Do I wear a Queen's bonnet?
That's kind of funny. And it's nice to see that the guilds are doing things to keep morale up with these theme weeks, because I know it's hot out there. I want to open up the conversation a bit. BK, Alyson, and Max, why are you striking? I want to start with you, BK. Why are you personally striking?
It's very easy. I'm striking for equal pay. I mean, to the sense, as the strike was getting started, the Writers Guild was getting ready to go on strike. I guess maybe a day or so after, I got a call from another actor who was on one of my shows and said, "Are you getting your residuals?" I'm like, I had no idea I was supposed to at this point. So looking into that, we found out that residuals had stopped. It's kind of the piece that when things start hitting closer and closer to home, that was the first one that kind of is a shot across the bow. I was already aware of what was going on, but at that point, then it's okay. Well, it's, you put the boots on and hit the streets kind of with the picket lines. And so it was a pay, proper pay. It's that's the simplest and easy one for me. That's where I'm hit the most.
What's happened is I don't think a lot of people have heard this situation, but when we were working for the networks, we would get between 22 and 24 episodes a year. And people who are getting paid, let's say even $5,000 or even $10,000 an episode, there were opportunities where you'd make some decent money, where you got 22 episodes or 24 episodes a season. Now, because of the streaming, we now have only 6 episodes. Maybe a couple of them have 10 episodes. Pay has come down. The way streaming works, you also lose residuals. The residual situation is not the same as it was on networks. So an actor, most of our actors, everybody thinks, I think the regular general public think everybody that's an actor or part of the Screen Actors Guild makes the kind of money that the top 4% makes. And that's just not true. It's really 86% of our members make less than $26,000 a year. And $26,000 a year is what we need to make in order to cover ourselves through health insurance. So when you start looking at the numbers, there's also advanced pay. A lot of people get these contracts and they don't realize that when their agents negotiate, you're getting $10,000. You think you're getting $10,000 and that you're going to get your residuals afterwards. The reality is that if you've got a contract, and a lot of the contracts now have advanced pay on it, you don't realize that $3,000 of that dollars is now part of your residuals. You're not going to get residuals. And, BK, it may have been that you had a contract that said it was an advanced pay contract, very common right now. And, like I said, everybody thinks they're getting a chunk of change, that they're going to also get some residuals later on. But when they don't get these residuals and they call in, and suddenly you call your agent, you go, why am I not getting residuals? I used to get them 20 years ago or 10 years ago. It's like, well, you got them in your advanced pay. You did not really get $10,000. You got $7,000 plus $3,000 of what would the residuals would be. And what a lot of agents, a lot of people, if it's a show, it's a new show, you don't know whether or not the show is going to go. Some people like the advanced pay. People want to have that, in their pocket, because if the show doesn't go, well, you wouldn't have gotten residuals. But the reality is most shows, especially like I said, most streaming shows now, they only shoot for 3 years. The most you'll see is 3 years. And everybody who's paying for their streaming services, they fall in love with these shows and they go, well, wait, I only saw 3 seasons. I maybe only saw 18 episodes of something. Where are the rest of my episodes? It's like 1 year all packed in over a 3-year period or a 3-term period. And ultimately, the actors are sort of cut loose, the writers are cut loose, and nobody gets to get the kind of dollars that they used to be able to get to take care of themselves anymore. And, the problem is the streamers, the people who are paying for their streaming platforms, they're disappointed that their shows aren't, but they'll just go to another show. It's very likely that they're not going to, as much as they're going to miss that show, they're going to go, well, what else is here on Netflix? What else here is on Apple or on Prime, or Hulu and all those things. So it's a very difficult message to get across to the rest of the world. AI really is my thing. So when we come back around AI, and I'll be talking a little crazy like that too, but it's hard to get across to people that really it's only the top very, very small percentage of the Tom Hanks and the Tom Cruises and the Jennifer Lawrences that are making millions of dollars. It's really the bulk of our people, which are, we have background people, we have stand-up people, we have broadcasters, all of us, 86% of us make less than $26,000 a year.
I'm fighting to pave the way for the future, because if we don't stand up now, we can't afford, who can afford to be out of work, but we can't afford not to. I came from the corporate background, 7 years at Fox, 12 years at Sony. It was tough then. I started entry level. I had to work my way up. I got to a manager level. And then at the end of the day, I'm like, wait a minute, 20 years, I'm working corporate and I'm still not an actor, which is why I moved out here in 1985 to be, knowing 2 people borrowing $500 to get here. One was my teacher, Cliff Osmond, may he rest in peace, saying, Alyson, you're not ready. And I'd be crying. And I had a business degree. I have 3/4 of a master's degree in international relations. And I'm like, I don't know how to be a waitress. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but my poor dad would be rolling over in his grave that he spent all my money for college to go be, a waitress. So anyway, I worked my way up, and it was tough going through the studios and everything that, I had to deal with, and men getting promoted over me and everything else going on. But so when I was laid off by Sony, it was not that it was a blessing in disguise. I was ready to do it, but then I didn't know what to do. And Cliff had said way back when, don't be a background actor if you want to be a principal actor. So one day, 2011, I came home and I'm like, what am I going to do? I can't, it's not a great economy. I couldn't go do what I had done at the studio because I had counterparts at the other studios. So I'm watching my favorite show and I'm like, okay, Cliff, I'm sorry, but I'm going to go be a background actor. And oh my God, it was amazing what I was learning. And then I'm like, I can't, every job would be my last job. And then, I got sucked into it. But I've made pension and health the past 2 years. Central casting has been wonderful to me, especially during COVID. And I had a theatrical agent. I've always had a commercial agent, but a theatrical agent before COVID. And then that kind of dissolved. And then I'm like, they kept throwing me work, core jobs on shows, big shows, testing every day to be around A-list actors, so they wouldn't catch COVID. And, I'm like, I like this. I live alone. I can get out of the house. I'm making $100 for a COVID test. And so I made pension and health based on the hours, basically from all the COVID tests I took. And then this fall, I was like, okay, that's my last background job. I'm going to look for a new theatrical agent. And then in November, I got booked on this huge show in January, got upgraded. And I'm like, oh my God, I got sucked in and it paid off, So I'm fighting for the future. This AI is not going away. Some kind of restraints need to be put on it. If they want to wipe out a whole category of SAG-AFTRA members, and the background community probably makes up the majority of SAG-AFTRA members, if they're going to wipe out a whole contingent of us, no, you're not. You better think twice. Don't you know that background makes foreground? I used to live with an Academy Award-winning film editor. And he would tell me his mentors, he's like, oh, honey, you're so creative. I want you to be my assistant on my next big film. And I'm like, okay. Well, that never happened. But he would tell me his mentors would tell him background makes foreground. So if you think you're going to have AI, no. And I've been scanned. Friends of mine have been scanned. You can say no. Well, then you're sent home and you're never, and then if you get like a promise of a possible 6-day work, days on a show, you don't want to give up 6 days, so something needs to be done about that. And I get residuals from a network show I had done. They're now 93 cents. So I want it to be there. I didn't work my whole life to get here, because everything I've done up until now has taken me to this point. And I'm strong now. I'm fighting.
So I think the strike is a great opportunity for background to voice the wrongs that have been done to them for endless amounts of time. We've, in general, been treated like props by when we're on set. And we don't really get the sense that we're truly part of it. Well, we are truly part of it, but we're not given the respect that that generally other people are given, because I guess there's sort of a hierarchy in the film industry, both on set and offset. And the offset, I guess we're seeing with right now with coming from way above, from Disney CEO and stuff like that. But on set, there's still a hierarchy in which there's like a pecking order, and you could see it in some shows. It shows on the lunch line. So they'll have certain departments first, and then they'll go by department until they get to PAs, who are last. And then after PAs comes background. And that is essentially the pecking order of how important they think people are on set. And I think everybody has sort of an equal importance, because we all are contributing to the scenes in our own different ways. Oftentimes there are days where certain departments will have a harder time on set than other departments, and sometimes background is those departments. There are times where we're stuck in out of season wardrobe at freezing temperatures, but we're wearing almost no clothing. And there's other times where we are wearing tons of layers in intense heat. And this is not something that most people have to experience in any job, really. And it can be dangerous, and there's very little that is actually done. We get measly $25 for having to deal with that. That's all we get the entire day. And that's just one of many different examples of ways that background gets screwed over, and they try to make it seem like it's our fault, or like we should be grateful for having the job or whatever, when it's really our human rights that they're violating. I've seen people go to the hospital. There's been the sets where people, like 7 or 8 people, have had to go to the hospital because of heat stroke, or there's also been times where they give us like such bad food that I remember one time everybody got food poisoning on one day because they gave us rotten hamburgers, and they didn't give that to the rest of the crew because they knew that they were giving us the worst food and the throwaway food, and they do that to cut costs. But I also feel like it's a lack of respect that comes towards us as well. And I'd like to see that addressed, and I'd like to see people speak up about that and during this strike, and hopefully in a future date after the strike ends, we as background can be treated as actual humans.
My next question is about WGA and SAG in the negotiation room. Can you elaborate on how involved each guild was in negotiating with the other one? I know there are a lot of issues that you both have that have been like overlapping. There are both concerns about AI, there's concerns about residuals. So could you please just walk me through what it was like when you were supporting each other in those various negotiations?
We've been just observing. We didn't have any, and I'm sure that was the case for WGA coming in to observe with our negotiations as well. There was no intermingling. Basically, it was just to come in to observe, to hear what was being said. I don't even think that anybody was in actually AMPTP room. I think it was just when you were in your own home base that we had our leader, Duncan Clark Island, was just in observing. It was never, and as a matter of fact, what he did say when he would come into our room, he would have said, I'm restricted. I'm not allowed to talk about what I've heard, but just so you know, I have been appraised of what they're talking about, as did someone from the WGA came in to observe in our room. And I can only assume that they went back and said, look, we are observing. The good news with them observing was that they were able to, I think, absorb each other's issues, realize that there were some very similar issues. But we've always been there to just negotiate our own contract. We're negotiating our SAG-AFTRA contract. I'm sure WGA is just negotiating their WGA contract, just as the DGA negotiated their own contract. We all have very different issues. I don't know how many items the WGA went in with. I'm so sure Sasha can tell you, but we went in with quite a few different things. Usually it's 6 or 7. We had 48 this go round. So everything about our negotiations was really about our negotiations. It wasn't about interfering or suggesting or doing anything with anybody else's contracts.
Yeah, basically the idea was to show solidarity with our sister unions. So SAG coming and observing with us was to show, hey, we are in alignment. You are not going to pick us off one by one like you tried to do in the past. We are here together. And same with us going over there. It's like, we're with you. We support you getting a fair contract, just like you support us getting a fair contract. And then once you're in the negotiating room, exactly. I'm not part of the negotiating committee, but the goal is, of course, to get your union's best contract that you can. What I've been saying is that, like, if you think about our unions as a Venn diagram, what we're both fighting for, there is, our circles are right here, what we are both fighting for that have no alignment. And then there's the part in the middle, which are things like residuals and AI, where there is some overlap, and where, we hope that we each make really great gains because they would benefit everybody. But what I like to believe is that all of this always comes down to corporate greed, right? This is late stage capitalism. This is the bosses coming for the workers. And so at the end of the day, what BK was saying about the fact that we are all fighting for pay raises is coming down to money. That is true no matter, where you are on the Venn diagram. And that even though these issues are specific to each union, they always come down to the same thing, which is that the corporations do not want to spend money on human labor, and they absolutely have to. And that we are going to force them, because that is what a strike is about. We are saying, you need us. We are showing you that you need us. We are exerting our union power. And at the end of the day, you're going to have to come back to us and have to work with us and pay us what we are worth.
Artificial intelligence really is something that not just affects our industry. It's going to affect every industry. You can see AI is taking over in places, and what happens is the entertainment industry usually is the first focal point that people will go to see. We sort of spread the word, while we are certainly at the mercy of these kinds of technologies, first and foremost, visually to everybody else. Everything becomes AI if you don't take it and nip it in the bud right away. And our voices are usually the ones that start this. It was the entertainment industry that brought Me Too to the forefront. A lot of people certainly have been exposed to these kinds of hideous things in their workplace that are not in the entertainment industry, being abused by bosses or whatever may have you. But ultimately, it was the entertainers that, also got attacked and were mistreated and manhandled. And, finally, enough was enough, and we brought it to the forefront. And, of course, now it became a movement. Well, the same thing is going for AI. The idea that you can scan one background actor and then use that background actors after paying them a half a day rate and saying, all right, you're never going to work again because we can use you over and over and over in many, many different movies. The point is we understand AI is here, but it's how to benefit from it on both sides. It's like, fine, you know what? Scan me, go ahead and use me, but pay me for those days that I would have otherwise had been there. Same thing's going to happen in our mailing industry. A lot of things are being, the car manufacturers that started from the very beginning. When it took manpower to put together a car. Well, of course, now, they crank out thousands of them a day. And that's the same kind of rat race that we're trying to accomplish, to nip in the bud right now. And that is saying, look, we understand AI is here, but you need to keep human beings alive and working in these capacities, and you need to pay them. And when you start looking at the bosses and realize that all these Howard CEOs of these companies are making millions and millions and millions of dollars a year. I mean, this Iger makes $78,000 a day. Not, that's not just an estimate. That's what he's making. You sort of go, really? $78,000 a day? And the shareholders are making the profits here. And you realize you're going to say, wait, we can't have just a little bit of that to pay to replace the residual that you've taken from us from not being able to have 22 episodes. All of these things are culminated into this one big package that both the writers and certainly the Screen Actors Guild, SAG-AFTRA, have to contend with. And we just hope that other people realize the flyover states, everybody, it's not just LA, it's not just New York, it's not, it's Arizona, it's New Jersey. We are all subject to being put out of our place, being put out of business because of the technology that's advancing. And like I said, it's not that we're not accepting that the technology is advancing. It's just that we should be working with it, not being, alleviated because of it.
Yeah. And that's the studio mentality, having been in the studios for 20 years, is that, everybody's looking at metrics. That's all they're looking at, the numbers, the numbers, the numbers. And if you can come, like I came up with an idea that saved the company $75,000 and I'm rewarded, with a coffee cup. But it's like, oh, well, you're making more than your two assistants are making, but you've trained them up so well. Let's get rid of you. So that's their mentality, but it comes from the top. And I think we're only asking for, what is it, like 2% of the profits? And I've studied Ashtanga yoga for 35 years now. And one of the basis of yoga is do no harm. And that's, the first basis in the medical community is do no harm. Look at the harm you're doing. These CEOs are living in a bubble. I worshipped at the feet of Barry Diller for 7 years. The man is gold. I could see his magnetic field walk past me. But I think he might still kind of be living in a bubble. When you're living in your $5 million home and that's one of 3 homes that you have, and you're driving this and your yachts and you're that, you're out of touch with the working class who's barely hanging on to pay your rent and have food on the table.
I personally think that AI should be public domain. So every time that you use AI to create something, I think that nobody should be allowed to profit off of that. I think it should be free use, and so yeah, it could never really replace people's jobs like that. And also, it's like just weird that they want to have these AI generated things create products for them when these AI things are not human. So it's not like they're doing any work. And the most amount of work that they would be doing would be giving the prompts to the robots. So I could see AI being like a fun thing. Like there could be some sort of, I don't know, social media for people to share AI creations with or something. There's a lot of cool AI creations, but it should not be replacing people's jobs, and it should not be a way of getting free money. As I think of investors as glorified gamblers, and that's what the Disney CEO is, and all the other CEOs and their investors, and everybody who is saying that the principal actors should not be getting their cut of a paycheck either, because they didn't take any of the risk, according to their words. Well, just because they didn't gamble their money doesn't mean that they're not entitled to a cut based on how popular a movie is.
The money that goes to these CEOs and boards, I mentioned before, if you put that money back into their product, we might make more than 6 episodes. That's a that's a huge one. A season when I was a child, the season ran whatever show, and immediately reruns were on. It also, oddly enough, I believe, helped connect the public to these actors and people in those roles more, because they're on TV more. Famously, was it Pat Morita? Was somewhat of a background actor, but he made a career of it, and I don't know if people can do that today, where you can be an unknown name and have a solid career as an actor. There used to be a point where you would recognize people's faces. You never knew their name. Now, you don't see faces repeated as often as they used to on TV. And Alyson mentioned about why pay the main person when you can pay the assistants. And that's what we're seeing now. It's at my level of acting. All of the salaries have been basically, I'll say, cut in half. And the hours are less because there's less work. So I'm not sure what the CEOs were thinking was going to happen, but a strike seemed like it was the only outcome of the road that they kind of set this entertainment industry up on. It had to lead to this direction if the people in charge of it are going to make the decisions they're making. It's just, it's really got to be figure out a way to get past this AI. I agree. Work with it, not against it. And with that AI thing, not only they scan your image and use you for background, is that forever? Quite honestly, if we're talking about contracts, I would want a contract from the day that you capture my image to the day that I die, and then that money, because my image is still usable, to be passed down to my next generation, which I know will never happen. But that kind of seems like the necessity if we're going to be using AI. Like, how do you pay? I should get $1 million to come in and get scanned if you're going to use my image for the rest of my life. I mean, I need to start there. So something's got to be done. We can't just say we've got AI and run out to the streets like a child. We've got to figure out how to use it properly so no one gets hit crossing the street.
That's a very apt analogy. Unfortunately, we do need to wrap. Thank you so much to our panelists for taking the time and for sharing their stories. And thank you so much to the audience for tuning in today. You can continue to stay up to date on all things related to the strike at TheWrap.com. Also, be sure to check out TheWrap Pro. That's our membership hub that focuses on serving professionals in the entertainment space. And save the date for October 4th. That's the date for TheWrap Pro's The Grill, which is our annual convergent conference focused on the convergence of entertainment, media, and technology. For more details, check out the website at TheWrap.com/thegrill. We'll see you there.